Well, it's that time of year. It's time for our 2025 Best Food Plot Mix. And been doing this for many years. Dylan, I think going back to with video 2016.
I believe so.
Was that in the rainstorm?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was nasty. But we had great germination. It just poured rain on us. I don't recommend that you guys go out and plant like that. But every year I want you to focus on something that's going to help your deer herd. And I really think it's important to, we talk about our rut zone planting. We talk about different plantings. We've planted corn in the past. I want to talk about what's been the foundation in the most important portion of our food plotting on an annual basis, and that's greens. But it can't be just one form of greens. It can't be just you plant a Brassica field, you plant a green field. And I want you guys to have diversity. So in your food plots, what works everywhere is to get some kind of green established. You have to ask yourself, what is the green that's going to give me the most level of attraction, the most volume, and last the longest during the season? Well, that's the question, and that's the problem. I'm going to talk about a mixed ag area. Most mixed ag areas have the complement of ag. So they're taking some pressure off of your food plots. That's a really good thing, because then the deer aren't just living here 24/7, feeding 5 times in a 24-hour period on your food plots and decimating them like they are if they're in a northern setting. So we'll talk about this mixed ag area first. I want to have diversity of green. And so just those two basic food plot types is you have a Brassica blend right here. We've done that out here before, half Brassica and half greens. Well, the greens, they're always evolving. The Brassica, we have that pretty good. We have a certain percentage of bulbs. We have a certain percentage of forage rape, forage turnip. We have radishes in there. So we have that down pretty good. We've played around with that for since '99. So I know what needs to go in that mix. The fall power greens in our green blends, that's always evolving. But bottom line is, in that green blend, I want an early to mid-season offering with several different types. And then that Brassica blend, I want to focus on mid to late. I don't want the deer eating the Brassica in the early season. And if they still can eat the early season offering late, great. But I don't want them to purely be focused on the Brassica, because I want that volume to last for later. So when you have those two plots planted, or those two plantings side by side in the same plot, then what happens, and I'm talking bigger plots, holding plots, at least 3/4 of an acre. I'll split that in half, and then I'll have that Brassica side and that fall power green side. We call it Big Boost Brassica Fall Power Greens. But then you have those two sides. Now the deer have something for the entire season. In our fall power greens, annual clover, peas, tilled radish, late planted buckwheat. We're planting all those in our area, southeast Minnesota, southwest Wisconsin, around August 1st for targeting. In your area, if you're down in Louisiana, maybe that'd be September 15th. Push that back 6 weeks. If you have drought at that time, it might even be October 1st if you're in the extreme south. But bottom line is, you're offering that green so that you have a highly diverse complement to each other, so that while the deer are feeding on the early to mid season, they're not feeding on the mid to late. Allows that to grow volume, put a lot of tonnage in that location, while still establish a pattern of use over here. I'd say, for example, beans. Let's say you could fence off the beans. The deer don't touch them. You don't establish a big army of does and fawns. They don't eat it down to the dirt. You open the fence, and then all the leaves are brown, and you have beans in the area, and they don't eat it till the end of December. Well, that's not a good thing, because you missed the whole season. We want to establish a pattern of use starting in late August, September sometime. The deer feed on that, and then they shift over to that later season offering when it's appropriate, because they've already established a pattern of use to the plot. So I want to see that side-by-side offering, but at the same time, I want you to have that side-by-side offering to set up the late season. If you only have the late season. So I expect these deer to start hitting this around November 1st. It's a late season offering. You don't offer anything else. So why are those deer all of a sudden going to change their fall habits that they've had in September and October, and just magically go over to that cool season food source where it hasn't been a part of their daily patterns since day one of the fall and the start of the hunting season? You'd expect them to slam over there. It doesn't work that way. So you want to establish the pattern of use by deer on the early to mid-season offering. That's our green blend. We're always looking for an attraction. Back some of my older plantings, we'd have beans, peas, oats. That wasn't good enough. That's an old one. Improve on it every year. We've added layers of buckwheat to that. I'd take a blend like that. I'd add tillage radish. I'd add peas to it. I'd add buckwheat. I'd dress it up. So we experiment with vetch, all different kinds of things. Annual clover. So I want to have that best amount of volume that lasts as long as possible. And then I want to have that mid to late. So I set up the movement here and finish it off over here. Now we're planting into our buckwheat. So that's easy when you plant this during the summertime. I like to roll this, smash this, spray this, and then put that seed down about 7-10 days later when all this turns brown. That seed gets a good catch, gets a good hold. And this buckwheat is an incredible soil builder. You know, I show this a lot. I don't think I can show it too much. But you take this out. Look what happens with that when I take it out. That's all fine organic matter. That's all soil building. And you see that soil just crumbles apart because it's all broken apart by those fine organic matter that puts nutrients into the soil, aerates your soil. That's my topsoil. It's very, very good, very crumbly, beautiful. Even these stalks are full of a lot of moisture. Crack that open, what comes out? Look at my fingers, it's just all moisture. You can almost get a drip out of there if you squeeze it hard enough. Look it off my finger. That's from the buckwheat, just smashing it right there. That's how much moisture gets collected in here. Even on a drought summer, that moisture will still be in here. So this insulates the ground. Keeps your ground from cracking if you have solid clay. Keeps your ground from drying out if you have sand. Gives that insulation effect. And then it's a smother crop for weeds. It at least keeps them at bay for a long period of time. And then we terminate this, spray the chemical that we need to kill whatever weeds are in here, if there's any. We'll use glyphosate if that's the weakest. If we don't need a lot of weed kill, we use glyphosate because I want to smash this down. I don't want it to compete with anything, and I want it to grow. So that's part of this, you know, that annual rotation. We actually have rye that we layer either in the fall or the fall power to give that a boost all the way into March. The deer feed on that in the early spring. And then on the Brassica side, we'll add 150 pounds of rye to that in the spring, before spring green up, so that we have another crop of rye next to it. This will all be in rye going into the spring with the different layers. And that's what I like to see in that mid-ag area. When you get into some of the northern wilderness areas and you have a lot of pressure because you don't have a lot of ag, even if you have low deer numbers, we'll start with layering rye. I might even glamour it up for that first. I might use 100 pounds of peas, 50 pounds of oats, 50 pounds of rye, put that out more mid-August in, say, northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, upstate New York, northern Michigan. And then around Labor Day, I'll add another 100 pounds of rye. And if I still have soil exposure and the deer are hitting it pretty hard, I'll add another 100 pounds of rye, more like the third week of September. Again, if you're in the south, you could push that up to 6 weeks back, 8 weeks back. And that's what would be great for you. When you get down into southern areas, you could get into some iron clay peas that deer like. They're more drought resistant. But the idea is still the same. You're trying to offer as much green as possible, side-by-side plantings. And then you get into our hunting plots. Hunting plots are a little bit different. If you're up north, it's layered rye. That's good. It's going to be the best for you because that hunting plot's not going to last very long if it's clover. We get into our area, when you have the complement of the big holding plots like this one, this is 2.5 acres, then we can add clover off to the side and it'll last into about early December. So clover I love, and that could be, doesn't matter if you're Kentucky, northern Michigan, over into North Dakota, down into New Jersey, wherever you're at. Chris in New Jersey, someone that comments a lot, you know, in those areas, clover can be king, those little hunting plots, and they set that pattern of use all summer long, but they're not so big because they're hunting plots that it establishes a big army of does and fawns. Those are those base plantings. That's that food plot triangle. I talk about the food plot pyramid. Base is greens, then you have corn, and then you have summer plotting plants, attractive plants, soybeans, something else. When you're trying to build a deer herd, you want that planted May, June, so it's right coincides with that fawning time. So you capture those does and fawns, you're trying to build a herd. Those are some different strategies. We elevated a little bit more out here because we have a lot of acres of food plots. We're doing those base plantings side by side. That's a base of all food plotting. We take the other half of these big holding plots and we plant them in something else. 5 years in a row, we use corn. It's not good enough. You get into end of December, early January, those deer are hammering the corn if it's cold. They might even wait till the end of January if it's not that cold. We've used different types of corn. Not that great. So we came up with a product called Rut Zone that defines and targets the middle. I've done videos on that too, but it defines and targets that middle part of the season during the rut, November, with early season attraction and late with the beans that are in there. But we plant that July 2nd, which is tomorrow. We'll be planting all our food plots that have that in it. That's that upper level. That's getting up into that corn zone where you want to have your base of green. You have to have that. And then we're expanding on that to have more offering and more attraction out here. And that's something we're doing at a higher level. That might not be for you. It's probably not for most people, but it is a higher level. We're actually planting it into this buckwheat tomorrow. I'll follow up with a spraying, kill it with Liberty Ultra, take all of the broadleafs in here, kill the buckwheat, and then we'll go from there. So, you know, depending on where you're at, doesn't matter. You still want green. The green you plant might vary, but you really want to have that complement of high diversity, early to mid-season, mid to late, in the same food plot. So you're not expecting deer to come from one to the other, from over here in early season, move all the way across your property, hit a late. We want all our food plots the same. These big holding plots, we want the same. Then we have those small clover plots, and that's the game for us. That's a 2025 best food plot mix. Told you a little bit about the type of brassicas we have. We have the fall power greens, told you what's in those mixes. Our Rut Zone is a combination of beans, peas, buckwheat, and tillage radish. That's planted on July 2nd after fawning time. We want those fawns and does somewhere else. And those are some mixes that we rely on. That green you can rely on everywhere. It's the base of all food plotting systems across the entire country. If you're only planting corn and beans, you're really missing out. Not something you want to do. You always want to address that food plot pyramid of food plotting and what the deer need. And you'll find with greens, you can compete with your neighbors, especially when you're not applying hunting pressure. Hunting pressure is the biggest form and an ingredient that you could add to your food plotting program to actually find food plotting success. Because if you overpressure your food plots, not only do you kill this right here, there's no deer coming out here during the daylight, but every stand around here, water hole behind Dillon about 100 yards, the bedding areas, they're not full of any deer either because you take out their afternoon food source. So no matter what you plant, always remember not to overpressure. It doesn't matter if it's a hunting plot, big holding plot like this, you can't overpressure your food sources. You can see the redneck over there. Can you see the roof? Back there behind a big thicket of sumac. We enter from behind that, behind a 30 to 40 foot wall of switchgrass wide. And we can get in and out of that blind all day with 20 deer out here. They never know we're coming in and out. That's the idea. Don't let the deer know you're coming. Food, bedding, doesn't really matter. You're better off to spook deer out of a bedding area. Because if you keep the food plot intact, they'll just move over and bed somewhere else if they want to hit this every day. That's the most important ingredient of the 2025 best food plot mix. But hope some of these tips help you for developing your food plot program this year. Again, we're going to be planting the Rut Zone tomorrow, July 2nd. And then we'll be planting the rest of our blends. We'll start taking out this buckwheat, rolling it over, smashing it, killing it, flattening it out, letting it turn to brown. We'll do that on July 20th, right around there. We'll plant 7 to 10 days later. We always look at the rain, make sure there's rain in the forecast, or we'll wait a week or two. We look forward to, having great food plots, and, I can plant anything I want. We love deer hunting. We have a passion for it. This buckwheat, for example, I encourage you to rye. Go buy that at the local feed store. Don't buy it from us. It's more, if it's cheaper at the local feed store, buy it there. We offer it for convenience at our site. I appreciate you buying it, checking it out. But bottom line is, we can plant anything we want. This is what I've learned since '95. That's the first time I planted a food plot, trying to create food plots for wildlife, build great quality herds, to have a great hunt and a great herd. And in 2025, 31 years later, I'd like to think I've learned a thing or two, but I learn something every year. That's why these blends always evolve. And we bring the latest and greatest ideas to you. And I hope it helps you with your food plot program and your hunting in 2025.